Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Do It Afraid podcast. Today we have our interviewee. Her name is Lupe Altamirano. Welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you here, and we'd love to hear more about your story. If there's something that you think is your biggest fear, something that held you back from your current journey, or would you like to start with what you're currently doing? And I know you just started a business. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go from there. We can talk about your current fears.
Okay, so this last year, both my kids went back to school full time. So I came with a lot of free time, and of course, with free time comes more baggage, more thinking, and more what ifs and what's going to happen further down the line. What's next? Because you're stuck as being at home as a stay-at-home parent for so long that you kind of just have that mentality of like, oh, this is just my routine, right? The get up, feed the kids, take care of the kids in the home, and that was it. So once they left, it was kind of like, okay, what now? What do I do? So last year was kind of like focusing. I was kind of like back and forth on, do I want to go back to school and finish what I had started with nursing school and pursuing that, or do I want to start my own business, because I do like having the freedom of being home with my kids whenever they need me, going to field trips or whatever it may be, or just simply being home with them when they're not feeling well. So because I did work in the medical field for a while, and that was like a 8 to 5 job. So that job sucks, as we all know, because those hours suck, because that's when our kids are in school and then they're out, and then we don't see them until it's bedtime or dinner time. So just finding that balance, I guess, has been like my key of having my family and my work, but having it be a good balance of um, me being present without missing so many milestones. So this year, I decided to start my own business in decor and events. Um, so I've always done parties because I like doing decorating, and I like seeing people's faces when you come in and you see, oh, everything, a hall with only a couple of blank walls turned into something beautiful. I like seeing that, and I like seeing people's faces when they walk in. So I just said, screw it. I have some experience from planning my own wedding a couple years ago, and my sister's quince, and then a couple of other friends have reached out for weddings and quinceañeras. So I have a little bit of experience. I'm not a pro, but I can get the job done. So yeah, so right now that's kind of like my new journey is starting my own business and seeing how far I can go. And of course, with every new journey comes a lot of doubt, right? Because it's like, do I make that jump, and like what happens after I jump? Am I gonna land, or am I gonna not stick the landing and fail miserably? And then after that, what happens, after I failed or I do succeed, and then what's next? I'm always thinking of what's next, which I shouldn't, be more present in the future. But as a parent, you do have to think further down the line and not just 5 years. So yeah, that's currently what I'm facing right now, trying to start my business and also balance, being with the kids, going to field trips, volunteering at school, um, and not missing out on the moments where they actually want us, right? Because right now, when they're little, they actually want to spend time with us. They actually want us to watch them do the same somersault they've been doing for the last 5 minutes, right? But it's like, oh, it's a new somersault to them, so let's keep watching it. We don't know if it 2 years, my oldest is she's going to be 10 next year, so she's slowly like backing up, and she doesn't really want to hang out with us as much as she used to. So we're like, oh no, we need another baby, but we don't. We're good. But and like and then we see our little one, he's 5, and it's like, oh, we have a good balance. Let's make this work. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and all the madness that goes behind our family. And yeah.
I think you touched a little bit on it, Lupe, but what would you say that's like the biggest fear that you're struggling with at the moment? Because if we think too much in the future, people tend to say things like, oh, well, I'm afraid of death or things like that. But something that you're maybe struggling with today or the last couple of days, something, a fear that you're struggling with right now in this very moment.
Is my business going to be successful, right? Because I'm not the only one that's doing this. I'm not the only one that's trying to find that balance of being at home and spending time with family, and still being successful, you know? So
Yeah.
I think just fear of failing and not being successful is something that I thought I was good at.
Yeah. And sometimes if people, for example, they can be scared of failure, so that kind of, they're like, well, I'm not even going to try. I'm
Yeah.
not even going to do that because I already know I'm going to fail. So how did you, even though you have that fear and that insecurity, how did you get the courage to start anyways?
Heck, sorry for my language, but I said fuck it. Like I said, I have two little kids, and one is a 10-year, almost 10-year-old daughter that I hope she looks up to me. So, and if she is, I want her to know that nothing can stop you from achieving your goals. Not even yourself. You gotta, I always tell her, we always use the Silencio Bruno, from Luca. Because it's like, it's so true. It's like, no, tell that little voice to shut up, and you're gonna move forward and you're gonna succeed. And that's just how you have to go in life, right? So it's like, okay, take some of your own advice and say fuck it and jump. And here we are.
I love
You
that
can,
answer.
it's
I love that.
scary. It's so scary because every day you wake up and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna reach out to these many people, and hopefully out of all these people I might get something back. But in reality, you don't. It can go weeks or months without hearing anything, and it's scary, the unknown.
Yeah,
I feel like
definitely.
I can agree. A lot of the entrepreneurial world, like, is really unknown. And also the imposter syndrome of you, like, I've done this before, but I don't know if anybody's going to trust me, or how do I prove myself when I don't really have that network or that clientele or somebody that can say, hey, I've worked with her. Besides family, of course, I mean, they're always there. Like, if we do something for them, they'll be more than glad to refer by word of mouth. But a lot of the times, like, people don't really know you that well, or like, at least me, I was always in my bubble. I was just a work, stay-at-home mom. I worked when I could, and then I just bubbled myself with like all my kids' issues with like therapies, and just focusing myself on them and my family. Like, I didn't really network. And now that I have my own business, that's something that I had to remember. Like, I have to put myself out there. People are not going to know me just because, like, they'll know me within the community that my family goes around, but like, not, they don't go around a lot because, like, the world is big, and I'm like shooting for the stars here, and I have to do this on my own. I have to go be the one to talk about my business. I have to be the one to go network. So sometimes it's scary. And for me, the first time I went there, I'm like, they're staring at my face. They're staring at, I'm like, why do I care? Like, just go and show up and show who you are. And people will come and request your services as they need it. And word of mouth really goes further. I feel like sometimes our clients are a little bit busy, so they don't always have the chance either. So if you can go out there and make those connections, they may not need you now, but they will call you down the road. People will have events all the time, like whether it's their mom, their sister, or whatever, like they're gonna need somebody to coordinate their stuff. So just remember to put yourself out there. And I know it's scary because I mean, I've been in this for 2 years now, and it feels like I'm still struggling with the same things that you're talking about. And I mean, it's one day at a time, and just remembering like, hey, I've done this before. I love doing it. And as long as you love doing it and you enjoy it, people see it and they like your work.
Yeah. But and then it's so hard, right? Because you're like, okay, you tell yourself that every day, but then you're like, oh my God, but nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
silence.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and it's funny, right? Because like we seek the silence so much that when it kind of actually comes, you're like, oh my God, I don't want it.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, I was telling Myra, like, I've been wanting to podcast for a while, and this is our intent at doing it. And I mean, I love it so far because it's very therapeutic. But at the same time, like, on our first thing, I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna be able to do it? Like, oh no, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing. And at the same time, I'm like, I already talk to her all the time. Like, we can talk, and then um we already have the podcast. We're just not recording, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're recording, you're like, oh, the pressure's on. But at the same time, it's like you get used to it. You talk, the more you talk, the more people will be more aware of what you're like, things that people don't talk about. Because
Oh,
a
for
lot of the
sure.
times you keep it home and like our fears, nobody wants to talk about that. It's all negative energy. But it's like, no, we learn from each other, you know?
Yeah, especially in our community, coming from, we're Latinas, so it's like, no, you bottle it up, you keep it inside, and you keep moving forward. It's like, no, let's take a moment to acknowledge that we're not feeling well, because if we don't acknowledge it, then we're just going to break down further down the line, and then everyone's going to be like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, well, X, Y, and Z happened. Didn't you see?
Yeah.
That's where the blow up came from.
I agree. I agree. And it's tough out there, but we gotta keep going because nobody's gonna shine like we do, you know? Nobody's gonna do it for our own business. Like we're the only ones that really know the struggle, the ins and outs. And so if we're able to carry it on and push through, like we just have to remember we're a community and we uplift one another because everybody feels like they're on a solo journey, but they're really not because we're all doing this together. It's a community.
Yeah. And in this kind of transition, Lupe, that you've been doing now from being a stay-at-home mom to starting your own business, what are ways you've been able to kind of cope or manage stress and anxiety?
I run a lot. So that's like my thing. I have a lab, so I don't really have a choice on whether I want to have exercise or not. So, I when I drop off the kids, that's typically like my me time, where I go and I find a random creek and I just run until I get tired and then find my way back home, right? That's like my only like real stress reliever that I have because I don't trust anyone to watch my kids, so I don't go out much. So it's like when I do go and get to go out, it's only a couple hours and head home and it's fine. But having that constant like walk or talk with someone, meeting up for coffee, it's such a good thing to have and to keep having further down the line because it's like we forget so much to pause and enjoy like a simple cup of coffee, right? Because we're always in a rush. Like, oh, I'll drink it on the way to drop off, or I'll drink it on the way to the appointments. And it's like, no, let's sit down, enjoy our coffee for 5 minutes, even if it's just by ourselves at the table, right? And that little bit of self-care to um, meditate and reflect on things that happened either day before or that week, I think for me, it has to be running because it's the only thing that actually makes me feel connected to others, not just me, or like I guess to the earth. It makes me feel like I'm here, not somewhere else, like I'm back at earth.
Yeah, I love that answer so much because today, usually I drop off my kids at school and I go to the gym, but we had this interview scheduled. So I was like, I have to get up at 5 a.m. Like I'm gonna have to get up at 4:50, get my workout in, and then continue on with my day. So when my alarm went off this morning, it was so hard to get out of bed.
Oh yes.
But like I kept telling myself, like, Mayra, like, remember, you feel your best when you work out. Because if I don't work out, then I'm in this weird like funk all day and I feel tired and I don't feel as energized and I don't feel as confident. And so I'm like, no, like I need to get up. I need to work out because I know that when I'm done, I'm going to feel like a badass. Like I'm going to feel like I can take on the day because I got up at 4:30 this morning and I worked out, So that I love that you said running because that exercise has definitely helped me as well cope with anxiety or stress and things like that.
Oh yeah, like so when I became a stay-at-home mom, it was literally the year before COVID hit. So I had just had my son. So it was like he wasn't a newborn. He was like about maybe 5 or 4 months, but he was still pretty new. And, we went from having all the freedom in the world to no freedom in the world. And then we had also taken on a puppy and a cat, and it was just chaotic at home all the time. So it was like, I told my husband, no, I need to leave. Like every evening, it was like he would get home and I'd be like, all right, my shoes, let's go. And it was such a nice habit to get into because you just, I don't know, you feel refreshed, you feel new. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I agree. I feel like sometimes we want to be homebodies, but then after so much and COVID, it's like I just need to get out. Like you just feel trapped. I At least that's how I felt. And I was like, I just need to get out of here. And now that I work from home even more, I'm like, I cannot be home. Like my husband will get home from work and it's like he's like, "Oh, I'm tired." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I want to get out of here. I've been home all day. I don't want to see the same four walls, you know?" So I gotta get up and take the kids out, and the kids love being out. So it's a win-win. And I love going out on walks too. Like it really connects me to nature and it helps me with my anxiety as well. And it's something my therapist has always told me, like do grounding techniques, go out. I really like going to the beach. We don't do it often, but I feel like that really grounds me.
Yes. And especially at the beach, I feel like because there is no one there, you're actually like, you feel the peace, you feel the quiet.
Yeah, we definitely sink it all in. So yeah, it's something that I love doing, but I don't do it often. I should probably do it a little bit more. We're really fortunate to have it down, like 30 minutes away.
Oh yeah.
I hear that all the time, and I don't know what it is either about the ocean. But even like my husband, we don't go to the beach that often, even though we are so blessed. It's literally like 25, 30 minutes away from us, right?
Yeah.
And we went a couple weeks ago, it was on a Sunday with my husband and my kids. And my husband, he was even like, wow, like we should do this more often. Like we should start our week this way because he felt like the ocean kind of gave him so much peace and so much energy at the same time that he was like ready to tackle on the week because he just felt mentally so relieved of so much stress and anxiety. And I'm like, wow, like I feel that too. And I hear that both of you feel that as well. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if because it is such a grand thing to witness. And you're kind of like, wow, I'm so small and this is so big
Mhm.
and so grand. And you kind of just feel to me, it's like I feel God's presence, you know? And so I just feel like I'm part of something bigger. I'm part of something more important.
I
For
can
sure.
agree.
Yeah, and I that too. I think like I like walking without shoes a lot because I feel
Mhm.
like you're more like in tune with earth and stuff, you know. And I think that might also help us, right? The fact that we actually get to the beach and we're like, oh, let's take off our shoes. Like you actually get to feel the sand in between your toes, and like I don't know, for a second you kind of feel like a little kid again, right? Because it's like you forget how carefree you were in those moments that you go back to the beach and it's like, oh, it's such a like calming place. I love it.
You feel really grounded, like you
Yes.
feel, yeah, grounded.
Yeah.
So you kind of talked a little bit about different strategies and practices that you use, but are there any other practices and strategies that you use when you're feeling just a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress in your life?
Um, meditation has always been one thing, but I don't practice it as much as I used to. I do pray a lot. And just, Jesus, take the wheel because sometimes I can't, and you really can't, there's those moments where you're just you get tired, you get tired of the everyday and you're just kind of like, okay, like, ahora qué? Like, now what? Just handle it. Let me just breathe. Let me enjoy the time, and I listen to a lot of motivational speakers,
Mhm.
and the majority of them are Christian. And I like to listen to them on the way back from dropping off the kids because I feel like it's such a chaotic time with everyone trying to make it to work that everybody's so stressed out, that you put that on and just like the music in the background just calms you down, but just starting with a good podcast in the morning, with someone that you actually like connect with and you're like, oh yes, this is my person, like they feel what I'm going through, or I have gone through similar things. I think finding people that are going through the same stuff that you are is huge, because um you, I don't know, I remember being a new mom and being like, oh my God, like what the fuck now? Like I was 21 when I had my daughter. So most of my friends were nowhere close to having kids. And then circle of friends, our close-knit friends, none of them were ready to have kids either, so it was kind of like you isolate yourself in a way, but not meaning to, but it's like you go through a different chapter that you kind of have to put distance between those friends and family, because it's like, okay, you guys are here, but I'm here now, but I want to keep having those relationships. That it's hard, until your kids get older, and then you find that, okay, they're okay being alone. Now let's go back to having a life. And then that's when, I guess, for me, the anxiety came back, was like, how do I function around adults? It's like, do you know about Bluey? No. Okay, then we can't talk. Like, that's just how I feel. I'm like, Carlos, I'm like, sometimes I feel like we're in different worlds, because we're talking about like potty training and this, and then everyone's like, did you go out last night? It was a crazy party. And then I'm like, oh, man, I feel old, even though I'm only 32, but I feel old as hell because I don't party anymore. And when I do, it's like, oh, I gotta be home by 10:30. I'm so tired. But it's I don't know, just finding that your people, I guess, finding the people that are going the same stuff as you kind of helps you kind of bounce off of each other. You're like, okay, I'm not the only crazy one. They're going through this too, or they went through something similar. That has helped me a lot, because it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Well, maybe
Yeah.
I am a little bit, but that's just a whole other story.
I think we all are then in that case, because
We
that's
just had this
definitely,
conversation yesterday, right, Yvette?
yes, we did. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because you're like, at some point you're like, oh, wait a minute, is it me, or is it what is going on here?
She literally just took the words out of my mouth. Like, that's something I told her yesterday. I'm like, I tried like having a new friendship, and I'm like, as a mom, I don't know if it's me, but that person was a mom, and I was thinking like she'll be really relatable. And then like there was cases where she's like, I guess like she has more help than I do sometimes, and it's like she's able to just get up and go, and then she would call me and be like, "Hey, let's go." I'm like, I can't just disappear and leave my kids out of nowhere. I don't leave my kids with everyone and anyone, like just like you said, because I know we're very similar in that aspect. We don't leave our kids around with just anyone, and during the week I have my kids all the time, and there's no way I'm just gonna drop them off and go unless I have like a networking event or a business something going on. Then I make it work, but I try not to like bother my parents during the week because I know how hard it is for them to do what they have to do. And then my husband also helps my parents when he can, so it's like the help is mutual, and sometimes it's like I can't just drop my kids and do whatever you want. So I feel like sometimes I'm like I don't want to be rude, and sometimes I'm just like I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't. And then sometimes people like don't like that answer, but I'm like it is what it is. Sorry.
Yeah, because then you feel bad, because they're like, you don't even hang out anymore. You're like,
Yeah.
can you come over and watch them then? You know?
Right?
Like, or like when we go out and like, Lupe, take a shot.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be there at 6:30 in the morning when my son wakes up?
Right. But
No.
then we're sitting here talking about this, but then Uncle just had a baby, and it's like, I'm gonna make it work. I don't know what I'm gonna do night shift, but I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna drink and then I'll go watch the baby. And I'm like, how do you make it happen? He's like, oh well, the baby sleeps. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess it works out, but then La Cruda is not gonna be great.
Yeah, and I think that's like I always tell my husband that I'm like, the idea of going out and drinking sounds so fun. Until you're there and you're like, you start feeling and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be so hungover tomorrow. Why did I do this?
Yeah. I don't know why, but for me, typically lately, I mean, I don't really party. And the last party we went to was like when you went out, and I know you don't really go out, so
And that's the last time I went
kind of
out.
evens out. But we went and we had a few drinks, and then when I got home, I was like, I'm a little dry. Like I think like that's hitting me, so I drank hella water, and then I went to bed. But I try to do that every single time I drink, so that I'm better in the morning, and it kind of works. I don't feel anything but like a really slight headache, but I know like. If I drink Mexico like alcohol, I'll be fine. The next morning I have nothing. But I mean, I don't like drinking all the time. So it's just a hit or miss. But I know the parenting, I mean, kids are up right at the crack of dawn. So it's like we gotta hit the ground running it either way.
Oh yeah, now I'm like, I'd rather celebrate with them and go to like the Academy of Science or something and have fun that way. And
Yeah,
it,
definitely.
you go through like so many changes and transitions in our life that as a mom, you're never prepared for them, you know,
No.
because like from the moment that you're told that you're having a little one, like your life is so um what is not uplifted, but it's done that like 360 already, right? Because it's like it's not only about you anymore, it's about you and the baby. It's you and the baby from that moment, you know? So I feel like for us it's so hard because from the beginning it's a constant change and it's a new chapter and it's a new journey. And it's awesome, right? That we can adapt so well as women and to be able to create spaces like this where we can share like the different stories of our journeys and the things that we've gone through and also find similarities in them. I think it's huge, you know, because I remember when I had my daughter, that wasn't a thing. You don't talk about what's going on. You keep it to yourself and you hope that you don't have postpartum, you
Yeah.
know, because
Hmm.
why would you, what do you mean you can't take care of your kid when your grandma used to take care of 12 and she was pregnant with two more? And it's like, well, we're not there anymore. There's no village anymore. The village isn't around to help you raise these kids, and it's just you. And that's perfectly fine, you know, because it's like we all want to raise our kids our own way, and we all want to teach them different things at different stages. So, it's a new world that we now live in, and we have to I guess adjust ourselves to. But in it's it's crazy, you know. It's a crazy world that we live in, and bringing kids into it, it gets even scarier.
Yeah, we literally just talked about this yesterday with Yvette and just like the importance of having a village. But you're right, like in our grandmother's times, or even in my mom's times, I mean, my mom and all of her siblings lived in such close proximity, and my grandma for a large part of their life didn't work towards the end of her life, so it was like my mom could easily drop us off with one of her siblings or like my grandmother and go to work. And there was this really big sense of community and we all did this together. But now moms today, we don't have that. So we can't rely on that. And it is sad. Like it does make me sad that, we don't have that. But you're right. It does cause us to be more resilient and have to find our own way to parent things. But I also do want to touch on something you did say at the very beginning when you were saying how you listen to a positive podcast or music or meditating or something, and that really helps you. Because I do believe that words have power and we do have the ability to either fill ourselves up with words that uplift us, yeah, or like speak life into our own life, or if we're listening to like really sad music or something like that affects us as well, right? Especially in the morning. And I was driving this morning and I was listening to this radio and the guy was talking about this study that they did on children where they took children that had a speech impediment and they would stutter and they put them together with three or four kids that didn't have any speech impediment before this experiment, right? And so they didn't stutter, they didn't have a speech impediment at all, but they put them into this classroom and every day they would tell them, you stutter, you have this issue, you have this impediment. Now to me the study is like totally wrong, but the interesting part of that study is that the kids started to believe it. And so that then they started stuttering and they started having these speech impediments that they had never had before because they were told every day, you have this problem, or you have this issue. And it just goes to show us how much power our words have. So if you've been telling, or even if like you haven't been hearing it from other people, but you've been telling yourself these negative things for so long, you start to believe them. And it's really hard to get out of that. So I think it is important to start off our day, like you said, with either a positive podcast that you like to listen to or music that makes you feel good, that uplifts you, so that have you have a better chance of having a better day versus if you go right in and start listening to music that makes you cry or cortavenas. That's what my daughter calls them. She's like, ya no quiero escuchar tus cortavenas because I can like the song sometimes.
Yeah. No, but it's so true because like in my daughter's school, I praise them so much because they're like I feel like they're so advanced, right? Because like that's how they begin their morning. like after the pledge, they do 10 positive affirmations that they have to speak out into the classroom about themselves. And that's how they begin their day. And I'm like, that is such a good way to start your day, because you're not starting with negativity. You're starting with being positive. And, I tell my kids, because, mornings are hard. I'm like, remember, do you like the mornings that were rushed? Or do you like the slow mornings where everything's nice and calm and mellow and you have time to do everything that you want? And they always go, oh no, the calm one is so much better. Well, yeah, but obviously, they're little and they're like, it gets chaotic so quick. And it's like, okay, let's recenter. And, my daughter is really good at saying, okay, let's start by saying, let's use our toolbox. She's like, in our toolbox, we have X, Y, and Z. Let's use our breathing tool so that we can calm ourselves down. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Why can't we adapt that as adults? That when we do have those moments, we're like, okay, what are my tools? I need a chance to breathe. And it's like to be so aware at their age, or at her age at least, that she's 9, that she needs to, or not recorrect, but correct her, like the way that she's responding to things. I'm like, that it's huge, because she's so little and she can change, and she can notice those moments where she's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm overreacting because I couldn't find my sock, right? And she was sitting on the sock. So she's like, oh, let me breathe. And it's like, okay, that is awesome. So now it's like me, I can't find my keys. And I'm like, where are my keys? And she's like, Mom, remember your breathing tool. Breathe. And it's true, it's like, yeah, let's go back to those simple things. Let's learn how to breathe. And, because the more chaotic things become, the more chaotic things become. So just, I don't know, the positive affirmations, and just remembering to breathe, our tools to bring us back down, I think it's huge.
I kind of want to ask all of our interviews at the end of like the very last questions that we ask them. I want them to be kind of a two-part question. So the first thing was, what's the best advice you've ever received? And what's the worst advice that you've ever received?
I think the worst advice was one time I confided to a friend that I wanted to open up my own restaurant business, and she flat out told me that I was going to fail miserably. She's like, I've worked in the restaurant business and it's just not for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I was younger, so I kind of took it to heart back then. But then as I got older, like I kind of reflected on that conversation specifically, and I'm like, well, maybe maybe it had something to do with what she was going through at the time, or whatever it may be. So I kind of like I let go of that, and I still actually have that dream to own my own restaurant, but later in life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like the worst advice that I've ever received, and I think the best one has been just to never give up on my dreams. That nothing is impossible. And this is exactly what I was told. Just because you became a mom doesn't mean that your life ends.
Yeah.
Your life is just beginning, and there's so much more that you can do with your life. And being a mom does not define who you are. That's just a small part of what we are. And yeah, that's been the best advice that I received.
I like that.
I love that.
I love that too. That's beautiful. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And
Thank you for sharing.
So if there's anything that you can share with us that you would like for us to know about your business, if there's any way we can support you, what are the next steps that you have? A couple of things you'd like to share before it ends?
So for my business right now, I'm just trying to put myself more out there. This is, I guess, one of the reasons why I decided to come and do the podcast with you guys. Because like I said, I'm really shy, so I don't put myself out there as much as I need to. So I guess just keep a lookout for us, or for me. The name of my company is All of You Eventos, and I am on Instagram and on Facebook. Promise you I will deliver you guys a wonderful job, and and high quality, of course, and yeah, just keep me in mind for any events that you guys have, whether it be small or big. I'm happy to help.
Thank you
Or
so
what-
much. We really appreciate you
or what-
coming on.
in my daughter's quinceañera, I would have loved it.
Yes.
We could take back some time. I'm just kidding.
Ah.
Let's go on a time.
She's gonna be 17 in like 2 weeks. It's too late now.
Oh,
But now we know.
yes.
Now we know.
Keep me in mind in the future. Tell your friends.
We'll do.
We'll
And
definitely.
then if you can get us some business cards, like
Yeah.
whenever we go out to events, I know I get randomly asked and it's like, oh, here's a card. So I think that's another technique that I like to share with different people. I'm like, just always carry cards and distribute them wherever you go, even like
Yeah.
your local donut shop or whatever, like they'll happily display your cards. So
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
yeah.
I will check them out because yeah, I've been going to a couple, like I went to like the Finley Center and a couple of little barns here and there that I've gone to events for. So I've dropped those off, but I didn't think about the donut shop, and someone else mentioned going to laundromats. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
And then I
I'm
think
gonna
Lola's has like a board. You can put it
Oh, they
somewhere
do? Okay.
outside. Yeah. You just clip it, like take a thumbtack and put it on there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's a lot of different ways. Just reach out and ask questions whenever you guys need anything. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast episode. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.